All right, Danny, welcome to the Something's Wrong Here podcast. How you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing good, man. Glad to be here with you guys. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak with y'all.
Yeah, we appreciate it. So tonight we're going to talk about what's wrong with law. You're a lawyer, correct?
As far as the state of Georgia is concerned, I'm still a licensed attorney.
Love it. What's your specialty?
Primarily now, personal injury, car wrecks, or slip and falls, anything where people get hurt, and an insurance company owes them money. But I've done criminal work. I've been a judge. I still am currently a judge on the side. So for the first part of my career, it was government, criminal defense, and criminal prosecution, and then for the last 7 years, personal injury and civil cases.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's quite the resume.
So you tend to have a rather famous client down there in Atlanta. So tell us a little bit about the Boot Girls and what's going on with that. That's what got Kinsey. How he got a hold of you and decided to reach out. We're going to talk a little more about law, but let's dive into that real quick.
Yeah. So for those who are unfamiliar, in Atlanta, there are certain places where private booting companies put boots on your car to immobilize it and you can't leave. And so, in order to get the boot off your car, you have to pay them a fee. It's $75 per day. So imagine if you leave out of town and you fly somewhere or go on vacation, when you come back, you might have racked up several hundreds of dollars in booting fees. So what happened was a pair of girls known as the Boot Girls in Buckhead. They got together and what they did is decided to take advantage of the capitalist system and say, "Hey, we'll take your boots off for just a straight $50. It doesn't matter if it's been there 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 3 hours, 15 minutes. It's just a straight $50 fee." And they go and use a key, and we can talk about that in a minute, how they got the key, but they'll take the boot off, put the boot back together, and leave it where it is. And then you're free to go.
And that's perfectly legal.
Yes, so long. There's a caveat. You cannot destroy the boot in any way. You can't, throw it over a fence or throw it to the side. Like, you have to leave the boot exactly where it is. You can cause no kind of structural damage. You can't even put a scratch on it. The moment you modify the boot or harm the boot or dent it or ding it, then it potentially becomes a crime. But as long as you're using the key, which the key doesn't do anything but unlock it, and the boot is perfectly workable and in the same shape as it was when you found it, that is not a crime.
So with the not even a scratch kind of thing, is it something where they treat it almost like a rental scooter? Where you have to like take the picture of your bird scooter when you're done?
That's
They just
obviously Yeah, that's obviously the advice. I'm like, take pictures before you take the boot off so that you've got evidence because, look, police officers may not necessarily agree with what's being done. And the booting companies are obviously pissed off because they're losing money. And so they're going to make any type of accusation against the boot girls that they can.
And that's where you come in. So
Exactly.
I saw on some of the videos that they mask their identity. What is the main reason for that?
Um, I mean, there's a lot of haters out there. Obviously, the booting companies. It may not seem like a lot, but it's high six, maybe even seven figures business in Atlanta. Um, in only certain areas of Atlanta are you even allowed to boot. Like not I guess Atlanta city limits you are, but other cities don't even allow booting. And thankfully, earlier this year, I want to believe because of the efforts of the Boot Girls, we actually got the booting laws changed to have a lot more oversight and restriction on these booting companies.
it was running pretty wild, was it not?
Yeah, I mean, look, Atlanta is known as the city of scammers. Like, on every block, on every corner in Atlanta, like somebody's got some kind of hustle or some kind of scam or something going on. And so, for the longest time, these booting companies, they were going unchecked and there was nothing to say, no enforcement from if you're legally parked and this booting company just puts a boot on your car, like you're stuck there. And most people need their cars to go somewhere in Atlanta. And so people would just pay the $75 and not even think about it. Like, we can't even tell you how many times people were illegally booted because they don't go reported.
So, how did it come about, the idea that we're going to start a business and go around unlocking people's boots? Because, I mean, that's not the first thing that comes to my mind, that I'm just going to go start taking boots off, because I would think it's illegal right off the bat.
Right. So what happened is the girls knew each other, they were friends, and one of them kept going to the apartment complex, and the booting company kept booting her car. And so she actually met the creator of the boot keys, who is their manager. His name is Christian Verrett. So Christian ended up, I think he just gave them a key, or sold them a key for $50. Like, you can go to, I think it's atlbootkey.com, and buy a key for the boots, which is, again, perfectly legal. There's nothing wrong with it. Well, anyway, they were like, well, look, if I'm going through this, other people are going through, they may not, feel comfortable buying the key or think that's a scam. So we'll just say, look, if you're in the Buckhead area and you've got a boot, hit us up on Instagram and we'll take it off. And it just kind of blew up on TikTok first, which is where I found them. Like, I found them before they really, really blew up. I kind of caught them on that wave that was going up, and I reached out to them with my prosecutorial background, my criminal defense background. I'm like, yo, if y'all are not linked up with a lawyer, you need to be. Let me be that guy.
So, are they sued regularly, or is this just safety precaution to have you on board?
Um, it was mostly like, this is going to sound crazy, but for me, it was opportunity to kind of get some clout because they were blowing up on TikTok, blowing up on Instagram, and I always take a very unique approach to marketing myself and my brand. So I'm like, all right, this is going to be hot. This is going to be a commodity. Like, this is going to be popping in Atlanta. I want my name associated with it. And for them, it's kind of a sense of security. Like, hey, I've got this guy, and he's not just some random lawyer that just pushes paperwork. I've prosecuted people for felonies. I've defended people from misdemeanors and felonies. Like, I know what I'm doing in this arena. And so I told him, I'm not going to charge you anything if you ever get charged with a crime because of this. And in turn, I want, to be promoted by you guys. So it was a very, very mutual relationship. And the way that I explain it is, it's never a bad idea to have a lawyer on speed dial or a lawyer on retainer.
I agree with that. And, thanks for being honest, because most people would come up with some bullshit answer, to be honest with you. But, yeah, it sounded like you jumped on right at the right time and promoted yourself in the right way.
It was an intelligent move.
Yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
th- um, I try to do things that other lawyers don't do, and it just feels good. It's got that Robin Hood story. It's like, yo, I'm defending the little guy from this massive asshole corporation or companies that are taking advantage of people. So, screw them. Like, hey, more power to the people.
Do you have a favorite one you can talk about?
We actually tried to get arrested. Like, we all went, and I drove to Buckhead, and there was a boot on a car, and we called the boot people to come out, and they actually came out. It took them, like, there are certain requirements that are supposed to be met. They're supposed to show up within, I believe, 45 minutes, or it's free. Okay, they didn't show up within 45 minutes. They wanted us to pay in cash only, which is, not a requirement. And then when they got there, they had guns on their hips, which they are absolutely not allowed to carry firearms. And there were so many things. So we called the police ourselves. We're like, hey, we want the police to deal with this. Either we're going to get arrested or you're going to take this damn boot off. What do you want to do? And once they showed up, the boot people, they knew exactly who we were. Like, it had already gone viral. They had already been looking out for the girls and stuff. And so I tried to get arrested. I tried to get that film. Like, we had a film crew and everything, and it didn't happen. The police said, "Hey, they're not doing anything wrong." We took the boot off in front of the police, set it down, and then we left. That was my favorite thing, is to doing that and getting it on camera.
That's awesome. So,
Fantastic.
at the beginning of it, was there any officers unaware of the law that had tried to arrest them for removing boots?
So they had been it was a very hot topic in the very, very beginning. Like, Atlanta Police Department put out a statement saying that they could be arrested for taking off the boot, which that obviously came from the higher ups. But when we called them, they never did anything about it. They were like, no, this is a civil matter. Like, we're not going to arrest you. Now there is, I'll keep it 100 with you guys. There is a pending case because one time an officer got a little aggressive. So we've had one incident where one of the girls got arrested, which is still pending in Fulton County. I'm going to get that case dismissed and it's going to be glorious, because she didn't do anything wrong. But
Awesome.
That is.
out of the hundreds of times that they've taken off the booze, there's been only one arrest.
Yeah, I love the attitude too, because the whole Robin Hood, the private companies coming in, like you said, making millions off of it, and them being able to jump in and make a little cash on their own while kind of saving the people of the town.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, like, it became super controversial because the way the boot companies wanted to spin it is people, illegally parking in small businesses parking lots, which is not the case. The most common type of boot calls that we would get is people at their apartment complex. Let's say that somebody's involved in a car wreck, right? Well, your car's in the tow yard. What do you have to drive? You drive a rental car. Well, guess what you're not thinking about when you get your rental car? Your parking validation sticker for your complex. And so,
Yep.
some people would go and tell the front office, some people wouldn't, but the booting companies would see the rental car, not see the sticker, and they're booting it. And these people have to go to they have to take care of their families, they have to go to work, they have to go to the grocery store, and they can't move. So it's like a double whammy, like, hey, I'm legally parked here, this is my rental car, but also what sense does it make if you want somebody to not park there, you immobilize their car in the spot you don't want them to park in? Like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my whole life.
I don't disagree at all. Uh, I know that they've had a few famous people that have gotten booted too. That boot girls basically, I'm assuming, bartered kind of like you did with them, so to speak, quid pro quo, and just said, "Hey, we'll do yours for free, but can we get a picture?"
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and that's, they're not in it to be millionaires by taking off boots. It's more of like, hey, this is more of a movement. And like I said earlier this year, it worked because they ended up passing legislation to really crack down on these boot companies.
Which is great, but at the same time, they kind of found that little niche and made themselves famous. Isn't the new legislation really going to cut into their top dollar? Because I mean, they may be doing it to help, but they're also doing it for a buck.
Sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, this is not their main source of income. Like, this was never I'm gonna make this into a giant company and stuff like that. This is more of like a fun hobby, adrenaline rush, good deep type situation. Like, this was never going to be like the only thing that they're doing. It was more about, sticking it to the boot companies and letting them know, like, hey, this little scheme that y'all got working, it's not gonna stay like that forever.
Well,
That's awesome.
that is awesome. And so we are talking about what's wrong with law and everything. And you've done a little bit of everything. Like you said, you've been a prosecutor. You've been on both sides, defense and prosecution. You've been a judge. What's one of the craziest trials that you've been a part of?
Um, I would say that one of the craziest trials I've been a part of is when I was a prosecutor. I actually lost the case with my trial partner. The defendant was accused of basically stabbing his baby mama's father. The defendant and the baby mama, they had issues with each other. She was clearly taking advantage of him. She was using him. Hey, pick up the kids. Hey, bring this. Hey, bring that. But when she testified, she's like, I hated him. I wanted nothing to do with him. So one night he showed up at her house. Unbeknownst to him, she wasn't there. And he ended up, I don't know if he knocked on the door or broke in, but he just like went crazy stabbing the first person he came in front of. The father ended up surviving. But what was crazy about that case is we had a next door neighbor witness who said the intruder or the person who did the stabbing was a large black man wearing all black with a Rick Ross beard. And for people who are unfamiliar with Rick Ross, like, he's a large black man with a like Duck Dynasty like long beard. Like, he's a pretty recognizable face, right? So we go to
Okay.
trial. We had to fly in the witness because they were on vacation in like either Tennessee or North Carolina or something, and they testified saying, large black male with a Rick Ross beard wearing all black, and the defendant to trial decided that he was going to wear all black, and he's a large black man and he had a Rick Ross beard. So
No.
like the description was like you couldn't get any better than that, and obviously we had the father-in-law point him out, and the jury still was like not guilty. They just did not like the baby mama at all. They just didn't believe her because I mean she was using him, like she most certainly was, and so the jury's like, yep, don't care, let him walk.
Wow. So, I mean, that kind of tells you what's wrong with law right there.
It's
It,
subjective.
it's subjective. And in court cases, law really doesn't matter. All that matters is that you can convince the jury, or in a lot of cases, convince one of the jury.
Yeah, I mean I would say the other crazy case, it was a murder case that I tried with my partner at the time, and we actually got a verdict. It was a crazy self-defense case. It was very, 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 very tough. There were racial elements to it. The defendant was black, the victim was Hispanic, and the jury came back after a couple of days, and they found him not guilty. Well, in Georgia, you can poll the jury. What that means is you can ask each individual juror, was that your verdict in deliberations? Was that true and correct? Was it coerced? And is that your verdict now? And everybody was yes, 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 yes. The very last juror, the 12th juror, she said it was her verdict back there, but it was not freely and voluntarily given. And she's like, uh, I don't think she said, I think he's guilty. So she went from not guilty to guilty. And I had never seen that before. Usually it's the defense attorneys asking to poll the jury. That's the first time that I can think of where the prosecution asked to poll the jury. And so what happened is that case ended up in a mistrial. They tried it a second time. That case ended up in a mistrial because one of the jurors did research on it because it was in the news and
Hmm.
stuff. And then the third time it got tried again, and then the guy was convicted. So he went two questions away from walking out the door to now serving a life without parole sentence. And so,
That's tough.
yeah, that's really tough.
That's a roller coaster right there.
hmm
So, which side of that were you on?
I was on. So
Were
I
you
was on the
defending him, or?
No, I was on the prosecution. So that one, it ultimately we ended up winning that case. But it took three trials, two mistrials, and then the third trial later, he was actually convicted.
Well, the third trial, when you have a mistrial, usually when do you give up as the prosecution? When do you throw in the towel and say it's not worth prosecuting this anymore?
That a lot of times that's going to be up to the elected official at that point. But on a murder case, like I can't see a complete surrender on something like that. Maybe you go back and try to negotiate a lesser sentence or a lesser charge, like maybe some type of manslaughter charge or something along those lines. But when you're talking about murder cases, it's like it's almost all or nothing. Like those are high risk. I'm not even going to say high reward. Really, they're just so high risk for both sides because you literally have somebody on trial for the rest of their life. But on smaller cases, maybe you work those things out. Like especially drug cases. Like I was a prosecutor in a major metro Atlanta county. And I would consider myself a fairly conservative guy, but even I don't care about drugs, especially marijuana. Like in Clayton County, marijuana cases, like you might as well forget it. Don't take those to trial. Nobody gives a shit.
Fair. With a something you said earlier, I wanted to kind of get your thought process. Is it weird to be both a judge and an attorney?
Um,
Like when you said you're a judge on the side, like can you kind of speak to that a bit?
sure. So for the previous 3 years, from 2021 to 2024, I was in magistrate court, and so in magistrate court, think of it as like the people's court. So the TV judges, Judge Judy, all of those. You mostly see pro se litigants, meaning people who represent themselves on civil matters. There's a threshold of $15,000. Like the stakes are high, relatively speaking, right? But not really high. It's not millions of dollars at issue. And then on the criminal side, think about when someone gets arrested and they see the judge the next morning. In Georgia, they're going to see a magistrate court judge. So I would handle their first appearance, either grant them bond or not grant them bond, or and they would do their preliminary hearing in magistrate court. So it was cool to get that judicial experience. A lot of reviewing warrants from officers, search warrants, and arrest warrants. Officers have a very, very tough job because they are tasked with not only knowing the law, but also enforcing it. And I think too many times they get caught up in the enforcement part without the knowing part. Because I was one that, if you're putting handcuffs on somebody, I take that very seriously because that could have disastrous effects for them and their family. So you better be really, really, really tight and sound with your legal reasoning and legal arguments of why I should sign this document to put handcuffs on somebody. Because if you go and arrest somebody and you really shouldn't have, like, that's when you get the perception of police officers are bad, they're just out here to screw with us, they're not here to protect us. And the next person you get, they may say, hey, I'm not about to let you falsely arrest me. Now they're pulling a gun on you, and now everybody's life's in danger. So I took it super seriously. I looked at it from the neutral standpoint that I was supposed to look at it from. I didn't do the police officers any favor, and I didn't do the defendants any favor. It's straight down the middle.
So that's one thing that you said that I throw out sometimes, and I like to remind some people of it is I always have to have a soft side for police officers in a sense because of their job. It's a very difficult one at this point in time, especially with everything in the world. It's also difficult to be a lawyer, I'm sure. Lawyers went to school for 7 years to do this and understand the law. And I don't think cops are trained for 7 years, typically speaking, to get that job. And they have to, as you said, know and enforce it, where your study is strictly know it, not enforce it. What are your thoughts on like that delta at
Yeah,
this point? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's extremely tough because when cases end up in a courtroom, we are trying to look at them retroactively, right? And the standard for most circumstances is reasonable. What is reasonable, right? Is it reasonable if you are by yourself on a country road at 3 o'clock in the morning and you pull somebody over and they've been swerving and they smell like alcohol and you can't see their hands and they're reaching for something, that you pull your gun out and shoot them? Is that reasonable? I don't know, because if you make the wrong decision, maybe you're dead. But if you make the wrong decision in the other way, now they're dead and they never had a weapon on them. So, it's very, very, very difficult. And I could talk about this for hours and hours, but I think it's important to just remember when you are in law enforcement that whatever you decide to do does have collateral consequences on the people that you're interacting with. And so, you know, you may catch somebody at their worst. You may not be catching them at their best. You have to keep that in mind. And that's something that I think that most officers do realize. But sometimes when they don't, that's when it can lead to disastrous effects for both them and the citizens at large.
What we see all the time on TV and everything, law shows where the case gets thrown out because of some bullshit where they didn't read them the Miranda rights or they put the wrong colored car. How often does that actually happen in real life?
Probably more than you think, but less than what TV would have you believe. People call me all the time, be like, "Hey, the police officer didn't read me my rights, and they arrested me." Well, they don't have to. The only time they have to read you your rights is when you're being interrogated and you're in custody. And we could, their whole law seminars on this. But if they roll up to you and they see that your, I don't know, spouse or friend is beat up and you got bloody knuckles, and they don't ask you anything, they just talk to the person over there that got beat up. Well, they're just going to arrest you. They don't need to ask you shit. You know what I'm saying? They got enough evidence. So it's a subjective thing of where they feel how much evidence they have. And I don't believe in the term technicalities. Either you follow the law or you didn't. And there's so much gray area in, does this warrant have enough information in it to be valid? Yes, there are errors. They said the wrong car. Instead of 852, they put 855. Does that matter? I don't know. They're very, very, very they're very, very fact specific, and that's what criminal defense attorneys get paid for. Is like, hey, let me bring up every little nuanced detail that isn't accurate and make the argument before a judge or a jury that, hey, those differences, they really matter. And it's the prosecution's job to say, yes, there are differences, but we are flawed as human beings. Like, our memories are flawed. But in the grand scheme of things, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it's a duck,
Yeah. So I throw cuffs on you. I'm an officer. I throw you in the back of my car. I do not have to read you the Miranda rights, like you said. We start chatting. You say some things that are incriminating. Since those Miranda rights were not read, can they use that in court against you before
Yes.
they're read to you?
Yes, assuming that you didn't goad those things. If you're just bullshitting and you volunteer the information, yes, it most certainly can be used against you. And even in interrogations where you've been read your rights, you sign a Miranda waiver, it's all on video and audio recording, all that. Police officers can lie to you. They can lie their ass off
Mhm.
to get you to say things. So it's very, very, it's almost one-sided weighted um against the person being spoken to. I have a rule that I tell as many people as possible. When police interact with you, you're one of three things. You're either a victim, a witness, or a suspect. And if you don't know which one you are, you're a suspect. Shut the fuck up.
That's great advice.
Heard that one before, yeah.
Have you ever seen, since we're talking about this, anybody get caught up with a lie detector? Has that ever worked?
They're not admissible in Georgia as any type of credible
I don't even
evidence.
know if they're admissible anywhere anymore, but I just, well, you said they could lie, so I didn't know if like somebody was taking a lie detector and they used that evidence against them and then they just cracked. Like, yep, I did it. You caught me with a lie detector.
Yeah, I have the only case I remember is when I was an intern. There was I think it was a child molestation case, and the guy agreed to take a lie detector test. And I don't remember how he did on it, but I just remember it was like, we can't use this shit anyway.
Do you think police are adequately trained today?
Um, oof, man, that's a loaded question. Um, I would
I
say
try my best.
I would say on a whole, no, they're not. Because I mean, it's like you said, right? Like, we as attorneys, we are trained for, you know, high school, college, law school, all these barriers to entry, and we're the ones, defending the law and interpreting it and things like that. And police officers, they're trying their damn best, man, and they get what, maybe 6 months, 8 months, something like that. Like, there's not a lot. And I mean, they continuously take classes and things like that, and it's taught by lawyers, at least in Georgia. A lot of them are, but their primary responsibility is like the physical enforcement of the law. And so I think there's always going to be that gap between knowing the law and enforcing it. I don't know how to fix it. But to answer your question, no, I don't think they are adequately trained, but I think they're trained for the most part to the ability that they can be. I just don't know if there's ever, like, even lawyers, like, we as lawyers disagree about what the law is. So even if you put us with handcuffs and guns and stuff, you're still going to get some wild shit happening.
What got you into law?
I'm not pretty enough to be an actor. I can't sing. Um, I can't hammer a nail straight to save my life. I can't draw circles. So it's about the only thing. I'm not athletic enough to be an athlete. So it's one of the things. It was either that or being some kind of engineer. And I'm good at math, but I don't like doing it unless it's at a poker table.
Fair enough. I'm with you on that one.
That's a
100%.
full-on breakdown that is exceptional. Well done.
It is. It truly is. So you talked about prosecuting and defense. I think Kinsey had a question for you, actually,
Oh,
on the defense
I gotta dig
side.
that out of my cell phone here. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, he had a
All right.
question.
So this actually comes from a former federal court reporter.
Okay.
How do you defend people and then live with the after emotions of clients you know are guilty and no punishment is meted out by the judge?
That's the prosecutor's problem. Well, are you talking about a case where a person is found not guilty, or somebody where the judge just goes soft on them?
I think it's more of where you have to defend them and you know that you're defending somebody who's guilty.
Yeah,
But
Like,
nothing comes of it.
yeah. I
So
definitely,
like getting someone off.
yeah, I definitely defended a guy and got a not guilty verdict, and he told me that he did it. Like, he straight up told me he did it. Um, that was a it was one of my first cases as a young lawyer. The guy was alleged to have like pushed his wife, and what but the circumstances surrounding it were weird. He was alleged to have pushed her. She didn't make a report until 7 days later. In the meantime, before she made a report, they were going through a divorce. She had her civil lawyer file a motion to take the kids away from him permanently. And so it was like, well, if, my basic argument was, if he had really pushed you, why'd you wait 7 days before you said anything? You should have said something a lot sooner. You're just using this as leverage to take the kids away from him. And we ended up winning that trial. I couldn't put him on the stand because he had already told me he did it. But she had one of her kids testify against his own dad, and I had asked to speak to the kid prior to him taking the stand. I didn't want to beat up on a like 9-year-old kid, but one of the things I asked him was like, "Hey, have you and mommy ever talked about this case and what daddy did?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, we talk about it all the time." Well, she had already testified; she never discussed it with the kids, so that was a lie. And
so
so
then you got coercing and all that kind of stuff thrown in there.
exactly, exactly. And come to find out, one of the things the jury hung on that I didn't even really pay attention to was her new boyfriend was allegedly on the scene, but the prosecutor's office never called him as a witness. And so the jury was like, well, if he was there and he saw you get shoved, like, why didn't he go beat his ass, or why didn't he testify? And so we ended up winning that trial. And the reason why it was a trial, my guy was a military veteran, and they wanted him to plead to where he would lose his right to own guns. And he's like, I can't do that. Like, I'll lose my job. And so I had no choice but to try it. That's a, very, very minor, what I would consider a minor crime. I was like, dude, don't go around pushing people because that's not good. But I felt fine because, hey, it's my job to defend my client. It's their job. They're the ones that put the handcuffs on them. Like, you have to prove it. So I feel like if there is a verdict in favor of the defense, it's not the defense attorney's fault. It's the prosecution's fault for not building a strong enough case or proving it. Like, that's on them, you know?
You mentioned you were a young lawyer, and I kind of have to assume at a certain level that as a young lawyer, getting someone a not guilty who tells you I did it is actually better for your resume.
Yeah, I mean, it made me feel good because one of my colleagues, she was trying a case that I thought she was guaranteed to win. She ended up losing it, so it was like, damn, I'm awesome. But I felt bad for my friend, but I felt great because it's like this chess match, but the stakes are people's lives. If my guy would have been found guilty, he was 100% going to jail, like 100%. He would have lost his job. Who knows how bad it would have been for him. Um, but yeah, I mean, we high fived each other. Like, we had little competitions to see who could get cases dismissed without even having to go to trial. Like, we would think of ways like, okay, one of my colleagues, she had a case where a guy allegedly cut a lock off a U-Haul storage facility, and he took all of his own stuff, and they were charging him for cutting the lock. And I figured out, like, we looked at it and was like, it was his own lock. And I was like, yo, don't tell the prosecutor, like, go to trial on it and get a directed verdict. Get the judge to say he's not guilty. Because that's like the ultimate slap in the face. When the judge grants a directed verdict, that means you couldn't prove shit. And she ended up getting the case dismissed before that happened. But, like, the criminal defense world is a very interesting place. Like, you really dig down deep, because it's the state and all of their resources and all of everything that they have weighing down against you and your client.
Can you have a 100% honest and ethical criminal defense lawyer today?
What's that?
Can you have a 100% honest and ethical criminal defense lawyer today, or do they all have to have some level of nefariety to play the game?
No, I think that if anything, I think the nefarious side is definitely on the state side because they're going to have more tools at their disposal. The only thing you have as a criminal defense attorney really is just you and your client. That's really it. Now you can, hire investigators and things of that nature. But like, for example, in Georgia, for misdemeanors, if I have evidence, I don't have to give it to the state. I can withhold it. There's no requirement that I give them my evidence, but they have to give it to me. Now, in felonies, it's different. There's reciprocal discovery. If you have evidence, you have to turn it over. But a lot of times, depending on your relationship with the prosecutor, if they were good to you, you had some cards to play. Maybe you play a couple of them, let them know, like, hey, this ain't what you want to do. Why don't we try to work something out that's agreeable to both of us? Or if they were complete assholes and you just wanted to, kick them while they're down, you just don't tell them and then you spring it on 'em at trial. It just depends on your relationship and how they treat you, how they treat your client, how they are in front of the judge. And I would say for the most part, the public defenders who are always in the courtroom, like you want to have a strong relationship with the prosecution. And it doesn't mean that you're in cahoots with them to sell your client down the river. It just means like, once somebody starts playing the game dirty, it creates it's a snowball rolling down the hill. And the judge definitely ain't going to like that stuff.
Well, the second that you're defending somebody and you have this feeling that they're probably guilty, they haven't told you they're guilty yet. Is that one of those things where you take it as a challenge, or is that where you go to, try to plea down the case for their best interest at that point?
Yeah, I think for me, whether it's a criminal client or a civil client, you always get the best offer on the table. So whether it's my car wreck clients, I get them the best deal that I'm going to get, and I turn to them and say, now it's up to you. Or if it's a criminal client, I say, this is what they're offering. It's up to you, because at the end of the day, it's always going to be the client's life. It's their money. It's their body that's going to have to serve time or do probation or, cut grass or whatever kind of community service. So for me, the goal is to get the best deal on the table, talk about the pros, talk about the cons, talk about the risks involved of not taking that deal and moving forward. And then ultimately the client's got to decide. Like again, I'm like, look, I've already, we've talked about this till we're blue in the face. What do you want to do? Like, I had a criminal client recently. He was a car wreck client, but he also picked up some criminal charges unrelated to that. And I just did it for free. And I'm like, I got him a good deal. I told him I could beat the case. Like, I don't think they could prove their case, but if I'm wrong and we lose, you're definitely going to jail. You're definitely going to be a convicted felon, and you're definitely losing your gun rights. He's like, all right, work out the best deal you can. And I did. And I'm like, this is the worst case scenario, but we'll try and do one last ditch effort. And we ended up getting something a little bit better to where he's not going to have anything on his record. But if he rolled the dice and went to trial, I'm pretty confident we'd win. But he's not he's not comfortable with that risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Is like a lot of court cases now are so publicized and everything, and you, as a defender, you get all these people talking about how could a lawyer do this and how could they represent this person and this, that, and the other. But I think a lot of people don't understand is that if you don't represent them to the fullest as a defense attorney, that's grounds for mistrial.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to give them the best defense out there, or they can use that to get a mistrial or another trial.
Yeah.
And it's not that lawyer's fault. That lawyer has to exhaust all options for that client. It's your duty.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. I guess the court of public opinion, because they feel they're guilty. They're not in the courtroom. They don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, when I took an oath to be a judge, I took that very seriously. When I took an oath to be a lawyer, I took that very seriously. As a lawyer, you have a fiduciary duty. You have an absolute duty to your client and no one else. not their family, not not the prosecutor, nobody. Your job is to represent your client to the best ability that you can. Now, within that framework, you have to be ethical about it, or you're going to get in trouble with the bar. And you should be moral about it. But look, what's moral to you? Maybe that's different than what's moral to somebody else. But as long as you're playing within the framework of being ethical and being a zealous advocate, I don't see anything wrong with it. You as the defense attorney didn't bring these charges. The state did. If they lose, it's their fault. They should have, dotted every I, crossed every T, make sure that it's tight. And if you lose, again, either something was really wrong with you, or I mean, that's just how it goes. Like, dude, we had a independent witness say large black man in all black with a Rick Ross beard. That's the defendant. He's right there, and we still lost because they didn't like the witness. That shit just happens.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it all.
Can we back this train up for one real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
What are your thoughts now after where you're currently standing in your career, so to speak? What are your thoughts on what's wrong with the law?
That was my question.
Oh, damn it, Randy. Sorry.
That's what I was going to ask you.
He stole your thunder, man.
I know, right?
I think that I think what's wrong with the law is people have this misguided notion that it's very objective and it's very black and white. It's not. Every single situation that you can think of, there are exceptions, there are differences. Like, that's what we get paid to do, is find the similarities between your situation and your situation, or find the differences between your situation and your situation. And I also think that, well, I know I've had media cases before, that what you see in the media is not everything. Like, trials are boring as shit. Like, to sit in a trial, it is mentally exhausting. And I know I say that like I'm not a very strong dude, like I'm not buff or anything, but like when you're in trial, when you're done, you're just wiped out because you are concentrating so hard on every single word, every mannerism, the tone, like what the jury's looking like. Like, it is exhausting. And so people think like there are these bright line rules. It doesn't matter if we're talking about criminal law or immigration. Like, I could run you through 100 situations, and I don't care how fucking conservative or liberal you are. I can give you a scenario in which you will question your position on immigration or criminal law. Just to throw those two out there, because it's not cut and dry. It's just not.
Yeah, it goes kind of back to, is it wrong to torture someone? And then is it wrong to torture someone if it saves such and such lives? Phrase that question two different ways, you get two different answers from the same person.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just it's a lot more convoluted than people think. Like, I think that I tell people all the time, like, being a lawyer doesn't necessarily mean you are a smart person. The difference, I have more admiration for electricians and for mechanics than I do for other lawyers, because the only difference is, to be a mechanic or electrician or HVAC, there's no barrier to entry. You just go and start working, and then you learn it. That's it. In order to be a lawyer, there's so many barriers to entry, but it's essentially a trade school with barriers. You have to go to college, you have to pass, you have to go to law school, you have to pass, you have to take the bar, you have to pass, you have to take the ethics exam, you have to pass, you have to pay a shitload of money just to be in a trade. Like, we are law school is just a trade school with a bunch of barriers to entry. That's it.
At the end of the day, if you're on the defense, you can represent yourself. Not necessarily a wise choice, but at the end of the day, you don't have to be a lawyer to be your own damn lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah, I've watched people defend themselves, and I saw one guy, it was hilarious. Like, he was defending himself in a felony case, and I think it was like he had scrapped some metal or something like that he wasn't supposed to. And his opening statement was literally, you heard the prosecutor say I did all these things. I'm gonna let you know that whatever she just told you, by the end of this, not all of that is going to come out. And then he just sat down. I was like, that's genius. It was simple. It was effective. I think he ended up taking it, like, they worked it out before it ended the trial, but I just thought that was so cool. But yeah, definitely do not recommend, even if you do have a law degree, probably shouldn't defend yourself. But you can, and there's nothing stopping anybody from exercising their absolute right to represent themselves as their own advocate.
With one more fun one before we do any wrap ups or anything like that. With all of the absolute clusterfuckery that is meme coins lately, if you get rug pulled, is this criminal or Darwinian in your opinion?
Like if you get took on a meme coin thing,
Mm-hmm. Is it on you because you're stupid, or is it on somebody because they had it rigged from the beginning?
uh,
Is it criminal or is it on you?
it's my like personally, I think it's on you. Like, bro, you got to be careful when it deals with like when it comes to money. And especially if you're someone that works hard for your money and you really respect money, ain't no way I'm gambling that shit on some computer age currency that I don't even understand. Like that's on you. But you know,
Not
look,
even on a joke for a blowjob?
nah, nope, ain't doing it. Ain't doing it. I'm married. I'm good on that. but but
I
there
was referencing Haktua.
oh, oh okay, that shit flew over my head, my bad.
No, you're good. You're good.
Nah, but
Yeah, there's really no regulations on anything that any type of cryptocurrency or anything that you know of, is there?
dude, I don't understand crypto. I'm staying away from it. I hit the GameStop thing a few years
Nice.
ago. Yeah, I was part of Wall Street Bets when that shit blew up, and it was crazy because I was watching Reddit every single day,
Mm-hmm.
and I could have got in if I would have got in a week earlier. I think I would have made like tens of thousands of dollars. I made a couple grand, which is great. Like, don't get me wrong, but I could have got in sooner. But I don't understand cryptocurrency, and if I don't understand it, then I'm not messing with it because the government could ban it. You know, now all your money is worth shit. Like I'm not. I would again. That's a very conservative approach. So people do
Yeah,
what you want to do, but I'm not touching it. I don't care.
I'm with you. I was watching the Reddit and everything with the GameStop. I'm like, it's too late to get in. Then it doubled. I'm like, it's definitely too late to get in. Then it doubled again. I'm like, should I get in? No, it's got to drop. Nope, it doubled up again. That was crazy to watch in real time, and I'm glad you got on board with that. We were able to make a few bucks off of it.
Yeah,
So
I put a limit, and all of my like I was working at a personal injury firm, and I got all my buddies to get in it, and so we all made money on it. But it was like, yo, once it hits a certain level, like, yo, this is our exit. Like we're out.
so everybody owed you some drinks for getting them on that after work that day. Huh?
That's right. That's right.
Well, you're on vacation, so we're not going to take any more of your time and everything. We appreciate you being here. Your attitude and everything on how you're approaching things. Using the internet, like you said, using that clout to push your image as well. For me, I just want to say thanks for coming on. I wish you the best of luck, and hopefully you keep doing great things and keep representing the people on the right side. And best of luck to you, man. I appreciate you talking to us.
Yeah. Thank you, Danny. Thank you for your time, man.
No, man. Thank you guys so much for having me. Appreciate you guys. Instagram is at danny.nagel.atl. If you guys are ever in Georgia, please hit me up, man. We'll go out, have a good time.
Absolutely,
Right.
100%. Well, appreciate it. You have a good night. Enjoy your vacation and take care, man.
All right, man. Y'all be safe.
You too.
All right.